helps him to sigh.
I threw away the only thing that mattered. That's what I've been living with for 7 decades. The sound of that envelope hitting the bottom of the Walmart dumpster still echoes in my head. October 15th, 1952. I was 12 years old and I thought I was throwing away garbage. I was throwing away the most important words my mother would ever say to me. Mama died on a Tuesday. Tuberculosis took her slow, then fast. One day she was coughing into her handkerchief. The next she couldn't lift her head off the pillow. In 1952 in rural Alabama, that's just how it went. No fancy treatments, no miracle drugs, just prayer and castor oil and waiting. The morning she died, she pressed something into my palm, an envelope. My name written in her shaking handwriting across the front. Don't open this yet, baby girl, she whispered. Wait until you think you understand what love really means. Then you'll be ready. I was 12. What did I know about love? What did I know about anything? I clutched that envelope for exactly 3 weeks. 3 weeks of living with Aunt Martha, who smelled like mothballs and cooked everything in lard. 3 weeks of sleeping in a bed that wasn't mine, wearing dresses that hung too loose, sitting in a classroom where everyone whispered about the girl whose mama died. 3 weeks of carrying that envelope everywhere, feeling the weight of it in my pocket like a stone. But 12-year-old grief is different than grown-up grief. It's angry. It wants to hit something, break something, throw something away. And one afternoon, walking past the Walmart that had just opened on Route 31, I decided I was tired of carrying my mother's words around. I was tired of her reaching out from the grave, telling me when I was ready for something. I was ready right now to forget, to move on, to stop feeling that weight in my pocket. I threw that envelope away like it was nothing, like it was a gum wrapper, like it wasn't the last thing my mother ever gave me. 57 years later, I was cleaning out Aunt Martha's attic after her funeral. Behind a stack of Life magazines from 1953, I found a box with my name on it. Inside, wrapped in tissue paper that had turned yellow, was a letter in my mother's handwriting. My dearest girl, it began. If you're reading this, it means I'm gone, and you've thrown away the first letter I wrote you. Martha told me you would. She said that's what children do when they're drowning in grief. They throw away the life preservers. My hands started shaking. Aunt Martha knew. She knew I had thrown away Mama's envelope, and she never said a word. Never made me feel ashamed. Never tried to make me dig through that dumpster. She just waited. And she kept this backup letter for 57 years. I wrote you 2 letters, baby girl. The first one was about forgiveness, about how to forgive yourself for being human, for making mistakes, for not being perfect. But I knew you'd throw that one away. Children always throw away what they need most. I had to stop reading. The paper was blurring through my tears, and my chest felt like someone was sitting on it. In the letter, Mama told me about the night I was born, how I came into this world fighting, screaming, refusing to take my first breath, until the doctor turned me upside down and patted my back. You've been fighting the world ever since, she wrote. Fighting health, fighting love, fighting anything that feels too heavy to carry. But sometimes, baby girl, the heaviest things are the ones that keep us anchored. She told me about the day I broke her favorite vase. I was 7, running through the living room, and I knocked it right off the table. It was the only nice thing we owned, a wedding gift from her grandmother. I expected her to whip me. Instead, she swept up the pieces and said, "Good. Now I don't have to worry about breaking it myself." I didn't understand then. I thought she was just being kind about my clumsiness. But in the letter, she explained, "I kept that vase on a high shelf for 5 years, afraid to use it, afraid to touch it, afraid to let anyone else touch it. When you broke it, you set me free from protecting something that was meant to be lived with, not hidden away. That's what love is, baby girl. It's not something you protect by keeping it safe. It's something you use every day until it breaks. And then you sweep up the pieces and remember how beautiful it was while you had it." Most people walk away when stories get this heavy. The fact that you're still listening, that means something. The letter was 5 pages long. 5 pages of everything she wanted to tell me about living, about loving, about losing people and carrying on anyway, about how she met my daddy at a church social and knew within 5 minutes she was going to marry him, about how he died in Korea before I turned 2, and how she chose to keep his memory alive by raising me to be strong instead of bitter, about how she worked double shifts at the cotton mill so I could have the one nice dress for school pictures, about how she saved every penny for 3 years to buy me that bicycle for Christmas, the red Schwinn with the white basket that I rode until the wheels fell off. I never told you these things when I was alive because I was too busy living them with you, she wrote. But now I want you to know that every sacrifice was a choice. Every hard day was worth it. Every moment I spent loving you was the point of my whole life. She ended the letter with a lesson that took me 72 years to understand. Love isn't something you earn, baby girl. It's not something you have to be perfect to deserve. It's not something that goes away when you make mistakes or throw away envelopes or break precious things. Love is what remains when everything else falls apart. And my love for you will remain long after you've forgotten the sound of my voice. I sat in that dusty attic for 3 hours, reading that letter over and over. Aunt Martha had been gone for 2 weeks, but I could feel her presence in that room, feel her satisfaction that she had finally been able to deliver my mother's real message. The message I hadn't been ready for at 12 or 20 or 40, or even 70. But at 84, with most of my life behind me, I finally understood. I had spent 72 years punishing myself for throwing away that first envelope. 72 years believing I had thrown away my mother's love. But love isn't something you can throw away. Love isn't something that lives in envelopes or gets lost in dumpsters. Love is what my mother put into every meal she cooked, every story she told, every night she stayed up when I had fever. Love is what Aunt Martha carried for 57 years, keeping a backup letter safe until I was finally ready to receive it. Love is what made my mother write 2 letters in the first place, knowing her stubborn daughter well enough to predict exactly what would happen to the first one. There are more stories I need to get off my chest. If you want to hear them, hit subscribe. I'll be here. I kept that second letter. It's in my nightstand drawer now, next to my reading glasses and my blood pressure pills. Sometimes I take it out and read it again, especially on the hard days when I miss her most. And I think about forgiveness, not the kind of forgiveness you ask for, but the kind of forgiveness that was already there, waiting for you to accept it. The kind of forgiveness that writes 2 letters instead of 1. The kind of forgiveness that waits 72 years for you to be ready. I'm 84 years old now. My mother died when I was 12. And it took me 72 years to understand that throwing away her words didn't throw away her love. Love doesn't live in envelopes. Love doesn't get lost in dumpsters behind Walmart. Love lives in the fact that she knew me well enough to write a second letter. Love lives in the aunt who kept it safe for decades without ever making me feel guilty for needing it. Love lives in the understanding that some lessons can only be learned when you're old enough to stop fighting them. Some gifts can only be received when your hands are finally open to accept them. And some love is so deep, so permanent, that it survives every mistake you make, every precious thing you break, every envelope you throw away in anger and grief and stubborn 12-year-old pride. That's what took me 72 years to understand. That's the lesson I was finally ready to learn.